The massive space station called Nexus Prime hung in the darkness like a glowing city made of metal and crystal. Ships from dozens of different worlds docked at its many ports, each one carrying the best military minds their species could offer. This was the gathering place for the most important event in the galaxy, the war games that happened every year for the past 300 years. Captain Jake Morrison stood at the window of his ship, the U.S. Liberty, watching the alien vessels move around the station. Some ships looked like giant insects made of black metal. Others glowed with strange blue light and seemed to be made entirely of crystals. A few looked like they had been grown rather than built, with smooth curves and organic shapes that made no sense to human eyes. Well, this is going to be interesting, Jake said to himself, running a hand through his brown hair. He was 35 years old and had been in the military for 15 years, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Humanity had only made contact with alien life 2 years ago, and now they were about to compete in the galaxy's most prestigious military competition. Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez walked up beside him, carrying a tablet with information about their competitors. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a quick mind for tactics. The briefing materials make this sound like the Olympics, but with weapons and war strategies instead of sports, she said. Except everyone here thinks we're going to embarrass ourselves, Jake replied. He had read the diplomatic reports. Most alien species saw humans as young, primitive, and too emotional to be good at warfare. They had only agreed to let humans participate because Earth's diplomats had asked so many times that it became easier to say yes than to keep saying no. Sergeant Pete Collins appeared in the doorway, grinning widely. Pete was a big man who loved explosives, fire, and anything that made loud noises. He had been Jake's friend since they served together on Mars, and Jake trusted him completely in combat situations. Captain, you need to see what they let me bring, Pete said, holding up a requisition form. Jake looked at the paper and raised an eyebrow. Flamethrowers? Pete, this is supposed to be a sophisticated military exercise. That's exactly why we need them, Pete said seriously. Everyone else is going to show up with fancy energy weapons and complicated battle computers. We need something that says human, loud and clear. Communications Officer Lisa Grant joined them at the window. She was young, maybe 25, with blonde hair and an enthusiasm for her job that sometimes surprised her colleagues. I've been listening to the alien communications, she said. They're all talking about honor and strategy and the noble art of warfare. It sounds like they take this very seriously. How seriously? Amy asked. Like, really seriously. The Zorathi have been preparing for 6 months. The Vex have built special crystal formations just for these games. The Krell brought their best. Hive mind tacticians. Lisa paused. And they're all wondering why the humans were even invited. Jake looked around at his team. Amy Rodriguez, tactical expert who could find weaknesses in any plan. Pete Collins, who believed that most problems could be solved with the right application of fire. Lisa Grant, who could make friends with anyone and had already started learning alien languages for fun. They were good people, and they were good soldiers, but they were about to compete against species that had been fighting wars since before. Humans invented writing. Attention U.S. Liberty, you are cleared for docking at Port 7, came a voice over the communications system. The voice sounded mechanical, translated by computers from whatever language the aliens actually spoke. Well, team, Jake said, time to go make some new friends. The docking process took an hour, mostly because human ships were built differently from alien ones, and the station systems had to adjust. When they finally stepped off their ship, Jake got his first real look at their competition. The Zorathi looked like 7-foot-tall lizards wearing elaborate military uniforms. They moved with perfect coordination, never wasting a step or gesture. Their leader, who Jake's briefing materials identified as Admiral Vexfer, had scales that changed color and eyes that seemed to see everything at once. The Vex were even stranger. They looked like living crystal sculptures, tall and thin with faces that glowed from within. They communicated by changing the colors of their bodies, creating patterns of light that hurt human eyes to look at directly. Their ships were works of art, but Jake suspected they were also incredibly deadly. The Krell were the most alien of all. They looked like giant ants walking on two legs, with 4 arms and heads that were mostly mouth and compound eyes. They moved in groups, never alone, and seemed to share thoughts without speaking. Jake had read that they were a hive mind species, which meant they could coordinate attacks better than any other race in the galaxy. "Welcome to Nexus Prime," said Admiral Vexvar, approaching the human delegation. His voice came through a translation device that made him sound like he was talking underwater. "We are honored to have the humans join our ancient tradition." Jake could tell that Vexvar was being polite, but not sincere. The way the alien's scales shifted to darker colors suggested he was not happy about the situation. "Thank you for having us," Jake replied. "We're looking forward to learning from the best military minds in the galaxy." "Indeed," said Vexvar. "Perhaps this will be an educational experience for all involved." Amy stepped forward and bowed slightly, which she had. Reed was proper Zorathi protocol. "We hope to honor the traditions of the war games while representing humanity's unique approach to military strategy." "Unique approach?" asked a Vex representative, its body flashing curious yellow and orange patterns. "What makes human warfare unique?" Pete Collins grinned and patted the equipment bag he was carrying. "Well, for starters, we like to keep things hot." The aliens looked confused by this statement, and Jake decided it was time to change the subject before Pete started explaining his collection of incendiary devices. "We should probably get settled in our quarters," Jake said. "When does the opening ceremony begin?" "In 4 hours," Vexvar replied. "You will have time to prepare your formal address to the assembly." "Formal address?" Lisa asked. "It is tradition," explained a Krell representative, its voice coming from a different translator. That made it sound like clicking insects. "Each new participant speaks about their military philosophy and their understanding of warfare." Jake nodded, though inside he was starting to worry. He had not prepared a formal speech about military philosophy. He was not even sure humans had. A unified military philosophy beyond protect the people we care about and try not to die. As they walked toward their assigned quarters, Amy whispered, "What are you going to say in this speech?" "I have no idea," Jake whispered back. "What does a military philosophy sound like?" "Serious," Pete said quietly. "Very serious, with lots of big words about honor and strategy." "I could help you write something," Lisa offered. "I'm good with words." Jake thought about it as they passed groups of alien soldiers preparing for the competition. Everyone looked professional, disciplined, and ready for war. The humans, by comparison, looked like they were getting ready for a camping trip. "You know what?" Jake said finally. "I think I'll just be honest. Tell them what we think warfare is actually about." "Which is what?" Amy asked. Jake smiled. "Taking care of your people and solving problems, even when the problems are shooting back at you." Pete laughed. "And sometimes the best solution involves fire." "Please don't mention the flamethrowers in your speech," Amy said. "I make no promises," Jake replied. As they reached their quarters, Jake looked back at the alien delegations preparing for the opening ceremony. They had no idea what they were in for, and honestly, neither did he. But Jake Morrison had learned one thing in his years of military service. Sometimes the best strategy was to be completely unpredictable. The war games were about to begin, and humanity was ready to surprise everyone. The opening ceremony had been a disaster, at least from the aliens' point of view. Jake Morrison's speech about keeping your friends alive and making the bad guys wish they had stayed home had left the assembled delegates staring and confused. Silence. Admiral Vexver had needed 3 attempts to introduce the next speaker after Jake finished by saying, "Let's have some fun out there." Now, 24 hours later, the real competition was about to begin. The first scenario took place on Tertius 7, a desert planet with one major feature, an ancient fortress built into a mountain. The fortress was huge, with thick walls, multiple levels, and enough room for 1,000 defenders. It also had the look of something that had seen many battles over the years. "Attention all teams," came the voice of the War Games coordinator through their communication devices. "The first scenario is now beginning. Team assignments are as follows. The Zorathi will command the attacking force. The Vex will provide orbital support. The Krell will handle ground assault coordination. The humans will defend the fortress." Jake looked at his team as they stood in the main courtyard of the ancient structure. Amy Rodriguez was studying a tactical display showing the fortress layout. Pete Collins was unpacking equipment with the enthusiasm of a child opening birthday presents. Lisa Grant was testing the communication systems and humming what sounded like an Earth pop song. "So we're supposed to hold this place against 3 different alien species with superior technology and numbers," Amy said, not looking up from her display. "The scenario briefing says we have limited ammunition, no orbital support, and the consoneth. Attacking force outnumbers us 5-1. Sounds about right for a Tuesday," Pete said cheerfully, pulling what looked like a small flamethrower from his equipment bag. "Good thing I brought the fun stuff." Jake walked to the fortress walls and looked out at the desert landscape. In the distance, he could see dust clouds that meant the enemy forces were already moving. The Zorathi were known for their precise military tactics. The Vex could probably blast the fortress from orbit if they wanted to. The Krell would coordinate their attack with the efficiency of a hive mind. "Lisa, can you patch into the enemy communications?" Jake asked. "Already done, Captain," Lisa replied, adjusting her headset. "They're using standard military encryption, but I've been working on alien languages for 2 years now. I can understand most of what they're saying." "What are they saying?" "The Zorathi commander is explaining their attack plan. Very detailed, very professional. The Vex are calculating optimal firing positions. The Krell are organizing their forces into attack waves." Lisa paused, listening. "They're all talking about how this should be a quick victory against the primitive humans." Jake smiled. "Amy, what do you think our chances are if we play this like a normal military engagement?" Amy looked up from her tactical display. "Honestly, we'd last maybe 2 hours. They have better weapons, better armor, and they know what they're doing. This fortress is strong, but it's not strong enough to hold off 3 coordinated alien forces." "Then we don't play it like a normal military engagement," Jake said. "Pete, show me what you brought." Pete's grin grew wider as he began unpacking his equipment. Along with several flamethrowers, he had brought what looked like a portable barbecue grill, a fog machine, several mirrors, and a collection of small devices that Jake did not recognize. "The flamethrowers are obvious," Pete explained. "But I also brought some psychological warfare equipment. The mirrors are for confusing enemy targeting systems. The fog machine is for creating visual cover. And these little devices are speakers. They can broadcast sound in any direction." "What kind of sound?" Amy asked. "Well, I loaded them with some Earth music, classic rock, mostly, some disco, a little bit of country." Pete looked proud of himself. "I figured if we're going to fight aliens, we might as well give them a real Earth experience." Lisa looked up from her communication station. "The Krell forces are 2 hours out. The Zorathi are moving to surround the fortress. The Vex orbital platform is moving into position. Jake looked around the fortress courtyard. It was a large, open space with multiple levels and several defensive positions. The ancient builders had designed it well, but they had probably never imagined it would be defended by 4 humans with flamethrowers and a disco ball. "Okay, here's what we're going to do," Jake said. "Amy, I want you to set up our defensive positions, but not where they expect them. Use the mirrors and the fog machine to create false positions. Make it look like we have more people than we actually do." "Got it," Amy said, already moving toward the fortress walls. "Pete, I want you to set up your barbecue grill right here in the middle of the courtyard. Make it look like we're having a party. Can I actually cook something on it?" Pete asked. "Hopefully. Sure, why not? Lisa, I want you to start broadcasting on all frequencies. Talk to the enemy forces, but don't tell them military information. Tell them about Earth. Tell them about human culture. Tell them jokes." Lisa looked confused. "Jokes? Trust me on this one, and play some of Pete's music. Let them know we're here, and we're not worried." For the next hour, the humans transformed the ancient fortress into something that looked like a combination military base and Earth festival. Amy positioned mirrors to create the illusion of defenders in multiple locations. Pete set up his barbecue grill and actually started cooking some of their rations, filling the air with the smell of grilled meat. Lisa began broadcasting a running commentary that sounded like a mix of military report and radio show. "This is Lisa Grant, broadcasting from the fortress on Tertius 7, she said into her microphone. "The weather is nice, the food smells great, and we're getting ready to meet our new alien friends. Captain Morrison would like everyone to know that we're looking forward to this cultural exchange, and Sergeant Collins has prepared a special welcome for anyone who wants to visit." The alien forces were now close enough to see, and Jake could watch their movements through binoculars. The Zorathi were advancing in perfect formation, their weapons ready and their discipline obvious. The Krell were moving in coordinated groups, like a single organism with many parts. High above, the Vex orbital platform was positioning itself for a precise strike. "They're taking this very seriously," Amy observed, watching the enemy approach. "That's their first mistake," Jake said. Attack began exactly as expected. The Zorathi forces moved forward in waves, testing the fortress defenses. The Krell provided support, their hive mind coordination, allowing them to react instantly to changing conditions. The Vex platform began firing precision strikes at what they thought were human defensive positions. What they found instead were mirrors reflecting their own weapon fire, fog machines creating false targets, and speakers broadcasting Earth music at volumes that could be heard across the desert. "This is Lisa Grant with your Fortress Defense Update," Lisa announced cheerfully as explosions went off around them. "The Zorathi forces are showing excellent formation discipline, and their uniforms look fantastic in the desert sun. The Krell are demonstrating remarkable teamwork, and the Vex orbital strikes are creating some truly beautiful light patterns against the fortress walls." Jake could hear confused chatter on the enemy communication channels. The aliens were expecting return, fire, defensive positions, and standard military responses. Instead, they were getting a live radio show and the smell of barbecued food. "Pete, they're close enough now," Jake said. Pete Collins had been waiting for this moment. He picked up his flamethrower and moved to the fortress walls, where he had positioned himself behind one of Amy's mirror arrays. When the first wave of Krell forces reached the outer walls, Pete appeared and unleashed a stream of fire that lit up the desert. The effect on the insectoid Krell was immediate and dramatic. The creatures that looked like giant ants took one look at the human with the flamethrower and began retreating in what could only be described as panic. Their coordination broke down as individual Krell units decided that facing fire was not something their species wanted to do. "Attention Krull forces," Lisa announced over the radio. "Sergeant Collins would like you to know that this is just the welcoming committee. We have more fire where that came from, and we're serving barbecue in the courtyard if anyone gets hungry." The Zorathi commander was trying to restore order to the attack, but his forces were now confused by the human response. They had planned for energy weapons, projectile weapons, and defensive barriers. They had not planned for psychological warfare involving earth music and cooking smells. "This is Admiral Vexver to all forces," came the alien commander's voice over the radio. "Ignore the human distractions and focus on the objective." "This is Lisa Grant to Admiral Vexver," Lisa replied immediately. "We really appreciate you stopping by today. Would you like to hear some Earth music? We have classic rock, disco, and some country. Pete also wants to know if you've ever tried barbecued rations." Jake could hear the confusion in the alien communications. The Zorathi were trying to coordinate with the Krell, but the Krell were still backing away from Pete's flamethrower. The Vex were firing at positions that turned out to be mirrors or empty spaces filled with fog. "Amy, status report," Jake called out. News of the humans' victory at the fortress had spread through Nexus Prime faster than a computer virus. Every alien delegation was talking about the strange tactics the Earth team had used. Some called it brilliant. Others called it cheating. Most just called it confusing. Jake Morrison sat in the human team's quarters, reading reports from the other war games participants. The Zorathi had filed a formal complaint about inappropriate use of cooking equipment during military operations. The Krell had requested detailed information about human flamethrower technology, claiming it was for scientific research purposes. The Veeks had submitted a 3-page analysis of Earth music and its potential applications in psychological warfare. "Captain," Amy Rodriguez said, looking up from her own stack of reports, "I think we broke them." "What do you mean?" Jake asked. "Listen to this," Amy said, reading from a Zorathi tactical assessment. "The human approach appears to ignore all established principles of military engagement. Their tactics cannot be predicted because they do. Not follow logical patterns. Recommend extensive study of human psychology before next encounter." Pete Collins laughed from across the room, where he was cleaning his flamethrowers. "They want to study our psychology? Wait until they see what I have planned for the next scenario." Lisa Grant was monitoring alien communications from her workstation. "It gets better," she said. "The Krell commanders are having arguments with each other. Apparently, their hive mind doesn't know how to process what we did. Some of them want to copy our tactics, but others think we're too dangerous to learn from." "Dangerous?" Jake asked. "They're calling us chaotic agents of unpredictable warfare," Lisa said with a grin. "I think it's supposed to be an insult, but it sounds pretty cool to me." A message appeared on Jake's communication device. It was from the War Games coordinator, announcing the second scenario. This time, the competition would take place in space around an artificial asteroid field. Teams would need to capture and hold strategic positions while preventing their opponents from doing the same. "Space battle," Amy said, reading over Jake's shoulder. "This should be interesting. We're probably the only team here that doesn't have ships designed specifically for this kind of combat. The U.E.'s Liberty was a good ship, but it had been built for exploration and first contact missions, not military operations. The alien vessels were purpose-built warships with advanced weapons, sophisticated sensors, and crews trained for space combat. What do we have that they don't?" Jake asked. "His team. Flamethrowers," Pete said immediately. "Pete, flamethrowers don't work in space," Amy pointed out. "These ones do," Pete said proudly. "I modified them to work as plasma throwers. They'll work in vacuum, and they look really impressive when they fire." "Anything else?" Jake asked. "Well," Lisa said thoughtfully, "I've been listening to their communications for 3 days now. I know how they talk, how they think, and how they coordinate their attacks. Maybe I could use that somehow. Jake nodded. Amy, what about our ship compared to theirs? Amy pulled up technical specifications on her tablet. We're smaller and more maneuverable than most of their ships. We don't have their firepower, but we can probably move faster and change direction quicker. Our sensors aren't as advanced, but our computer systems are more flexible. Flexible how? We can reprogram them on the fly. Their systems are more powerful, but they're also more specialized. If we want to use our communications array as a sensor booster, we can do that. If we want to use our navigation computer to play music, we can do that too. Jake smiled. Lisa, how would you like to be a sports announcer? What do you mean? I mean, what if you provided live commentary on the space battle as it happens? Not just for us, but for everyone. Make it sound like you're covering a sporting event instead of a military exercise. Lisa's eyes lit up. That could work. If I broadcast on open channels, everyone will hear it. It might distract them or confuse them, or make them think we're not taking this seriously, Amy added. Which is exactly what we want, Jake said. 6 hours later, the human team was aboard the UES Liberty, moving toward the asteroid field, where the second scenario would take place. The artificial asteroids were actually sophisticated training devices, equipped with sensors and defensive systems. Teams would score points by capturing and holding these positions while preventing their opponents from doing the same. The Zorathy had brought 3 ships in perfect formation. The Vex had one large vessel that glowed with internal light and looked like a crystal sculpture. The Krell had deployed 5 smaller ships that moved together like a school of fish. This is Lisa Grant broadcasting live from the UES Liberty, Lisa announced over the open communication channels. Welcome to today's space battle extravaganza, where we'll be watching some of the galaxy's finest military minds compete for control of the asteroid field. The weather in space is lovely today, with no chance of atmosphere and excellent visibility in all directions. Jake could hear confused chatter on the alien communication channels. They were trying to figure out if Lisa's broadcast was some kind of tactical deception, or if the humans were actually treating this like entertainment. The Zorathy team is showing their traditional formation flying, Lisa continued, as the alien ships moved into position. Look at that precision, folks. Every ship exactly where it's supposed to be, moving like they're connected by invisible strings. Absolutely beautiful to watch. Admiral Vexvaw's voice came over the radio. Human vessel, please maintain communication discipline during the exercise. Oh, this is Lisa Grant from East Liberty, Admiral, Lisa replied cheerfully. I'm providing educational commentary for our viewers back home. I hope that's okay. Would you like me to mention your ship's excellent paint job? That red and gold color scheme really stands out against the stars. Pete had positioned himself at the ship's modified weapons station, where his plasma throwers were mounted alongside the Liberty's standard defensive systems. Captain, the Krell ships are moving toward Asteroid Cluster 3. Should I give them a warm welcome? Not yet, Jake said. Let them get settled in first. Amy, what's our best approach? Amy was studying the tactical display. The asteroids are arranged in 3 main clusters. Everyone's going to try to control at least one cluster. But the real prize is the central cluster because it has the most strategic value. The problem is, it's also the most heavily defended. What if we don't go for the strategic positions at first? Jake suggested. What do you mean? What if we go for the positions that everyone else thinks are worthless? Make them wonder what? We know that they don't. Lisa was still broadcasting. The Vex crystal ship is moving toward the central asteroid cluster, and oh my, that is one gorgeous vessel. The way the light plays off those crystal surfaces is just stunning. It's like watching a piece of art fly through space. The Krell ships are coordinating their approach to Cluster 3, and you can really see their hive mind at work here, folks. Every ship knows exactly what the others are doing. The human ship moved toward a small asteroid on the edge of the field, one that the scenario briefing had described as having minimal strategic value. Jake ordered Amy to dock with it and begin the capture sequence. And the humans are going for Asteroid 7, Lisa announced. That's an interesting choice, folks. Asteroid 7 doesn't control any major space lanes and doesn't have significant defensive capabilities. But Captain Morrison has been surprising everyone in these war games, so maybe he sees something the rest of us don't. The alien teams were now focused on the major strategic positions. Azorothy and Vex were fighting for control of the central cluster, their ships exchanging precise energy weapon fire. The Krell had secured Cluster 3 and were setting up defensive positions. Now what? Amy asked as they successfully captured the small asteroid. Now we go shopping, Jake said. Pete, target the Zorothy ships that are fighting the Vex, but don't try to destroy them. Just make them think about us for a minute. Pete grinned and fired his modified plasma throwers at the nearest Zorothy vessel. The streams of superheated gas didn't do much damage, but they created spectacular visual effects as they hit the ship's shields. And the humans have opened fire, Lisa announced excitedly. Those plasma streams look absolutely magnificent against the Zorothy shields. It's like watching fireworks in space. The Zorothy ship is returning fire, but the Liberty is already moving. Oh, that's some nice flying there. The Zorothy commander tried to pursue the human ship, but Jake ordered Amy to retreat toward another worthless asteroid. The alien vessel followed, leaving its formation and abandoning its attack on the Vex ship. Clever, Amy said, understanding the plan. We're not trying to win the strategic positions. We're trying to break up their formations and make them chase us around. Exactly, Jake said. Lisa, keep talking. Make everything sound exciting and important. A Liberty is now approaching Asteroid 12, Lisa broadcast. This is another low-value position, but the humans seem to have a plan. The Zorothy ship is in pursuit, and this is turning into quite a chase scene. The Liberty is smaller and more maneuverable, but the Zorothy ship has superior firepower. More alien ships were now paying attention to the human vessel. The running commentary was making their actions seem more significant than they actually were. The emergency meeting was held in the Zorothy diplomatic quarters, away from human ears and recording devices. Admiral Vexfer sat at the head of a table made from crystallized metal, his scales shifting to worried gray colors as he looked at representatives from the Vex and Krell species. 2 victories, Vexfer said in his native language, which the translation devices rendered into standard galactic common. The humans have won 2 scenarios using methods that make no sense according to any military theory we know. The Vex representative, a tall crystal being named Clarity of Purpose, flickered with orange and red patterns that indicated deep thought. Our computational models cannot predict their actions. Every time we calculate their most logical next move, they do something completely different. The Krell speaker was actually 3 individuals sharing one voice through their hive mind connection. When they spoke, it sounded like 3 people talking at exactly the same time. The humans appear to use randomness as a strategy. This conflicts with all known principles of warfare. Yet they continue to achieve victory. They are making us look foolish, Exver said bluntly. Our species have been conducting these war games for 300 years. We have refined tactics, tested strategies, and perfected the art of military thinking. Then 4 humans arrive with cooking equipment and somehow defeat us twice. Clarity of purpose shifted to deep blue patterns. The 3rd scenario begins tomorrow. It is a planetary assault exercise requiring coordination between ground and space forces. This is our opportunity to demonstrate that proper military discipline. will triumph over human chaos. Agreed, said the Krell speaker. We propose an alliance for this scenario. All three of our species, working together to counter the human approach. We will use maximum coordination and leave nothing to chance. Exver's scales shifted to determine purple. Yes, we will approach this scenario with mathematical precision. Every move calculated, every response planned in advance. The humans rely on confusion and surprise, but we will be ready for anything they attempt. What the aliens did not know was that Lisa Grant had spent the past 3 days learning to decode their basic communication protocols. While she could not understand their private conversations, she could detect when they were having meetings, and how long those meetings lasted. A 3-hour emergency meeting between all three species was definitely worth reporting to her captain. They're planning something, Lisa told Jake as the human team gathered in their quarters the next morning. Big meeting last night, lots of encrypted communications, and this morning they're all being very polite to each other. How polite? Amy asked, looking up from her tactical preparations. The kind of polite that means they've agreed to work together against us, Lisa said. I intercepted a few fragments of their communications. They're using words like coordination, precision, and mathematical certainty. Pete Collins was arranging his equipment for the third scenario, which now included even more flamethrowers, a collection of portable speakers, and what appeared to be a full-sized barbecue smoker. So they're finally taking us seriously. Good. I was getting worried that this was going to be too easy. Jake read through the briefing materials for the third scenario. The exercise would take place on a moon with multiple cities, industrial facilities, and defensive installations. One team would control the orbital space around the moon, while the other teams conducted ground operations. The objective was to capture and hold key facilities while preventing opponents from doing the same. This is more complex than the previous scenarios, Amy said, studying the tactical maps. We'll need to coordinate between our ship in orbit and our ground teams. The aliens are much better at this kind of coordination than we are. Are they? Jake asked. Or are they just better at the kind of coordination they've practiced before? The scenario began 12 hours later. The Alien Alliance immediately demonstrated the kind of military precision that had made them famous throughout the galaxy. The Zorathy ships took orbital positions with mathematical accuracy. The Vex calculated optimal firing solutions for every target on the moon's surface. The Krell ground forces moved in perfect coordination, each unit knowing exactly where every other unit was located. The humans, by comparison, looked like they were making everything up as they went along. The U-East Liberty took an orbital position that made no tactical sense. The human ground team consisted of Jake, Amy, and Pete, who had somehow convinced the scenario planners to let him bring his barbecue smoker to the surface. This is Lisa Grant. Broadcasting from orbit above the moon, designated Scenario 3, Lisa announced over the open communication channels. What a beautiful day for a military exercise, folks. The Alien Alliance is showing textbook coordination, with each unit moving according to what I can only assume is a very detailed plan. Meanwhile, the human ground team appears to be setting up what looks like a picnic in the middle of the primary landing zone. The aliens were monitoring Lisa's broadcasts now, trying to decode whether her commentary contained hidden tactical information. They had spent hours analyzing her previous broadcasts, looking for patterns that might reveal human strategy. What they found instead were detailed descriptions of weapon effects, enthusiastic comments about alien ship designs, and what appeared to be genuine amazement at the visual spectacle of space combat. The Zorathy forces are advancing on industrial. Facility 7, Lisa continued. Look at that formation, people. Every soldier exactly where they should be, every movement planned and executed perfectly. It's like watching a very deadly ballet. Meanwhile, Sergeant Collins appears to be Yes, he's actually cooking something on that barbecue smoker. Jake and his ground team had landed near the moon's primary power station, one of the key objectives for the scenario. But instead of immediately moving to capture it, they had set up their equipment in the landing zone and begun what looked like preparation for an outdoor meal. "Captain," Amy said, checking her sensors, "the alien forces are converging on our position. All three species, perfectly coordinated with overwhelming firepower. We have maybe 10 minutes before they arrive." "Perfect," Jake said. "Pete, is the smoker ready?" "Just getting started," Pete replied, adjusting controls on his modified barbecue equipment. "But I've got the flamethrowers ready for the main event." The alien forces arrived in exactly the coordinated wave they had planned. Zorathi soldiers advanced from the north in precise formation. Krell units approached from the east in their characteristic hive mind coordination. Vex crystal warriors moved from the south, their bodies glowing with stored energy. What they found was 3 humans having what appeared to be a barbecue party next to a large smoking device with earth music playing from portable speakers and the smell of cooking food filling the air. "Welcome to the party," Pete called out cheerfully, waving a spatula in one hand and a flamethrower in the other. "We're cooking lunch. Anyone hungry?" The alien forces stopped their advance, uncertain how to respond to this situation. Their detailed battle plans had not included contingencies for opponents who appeared to be having a picnic in the middle of a combat zone. "This is Admiral Vexvar to all ground forces," came the Zarathi commander's voice over the radio. "Ignore the human distractions and proceed with the mission." "This is Pete Collins to Admiral Vexvar," Pete replied immediately. "No distractions here, Admiral. Just good food and better friends. Would you like to try some barbecued rations?" "I've got enough for everyone." Amy was monitoring the alien communications while the enemy forces tried to decide how to handle the situation. "They're confused," she reported to Jake. "Their battle plans assume we'll either fight or surrender. They don't have procedures for dealing with opponents who invite them to lunch." The Krell forces were the first to advance, their hive mind, deciding that the human behavior was irrelevant to their tactical objectives. They moved toward the power station in their perfect coordination, exactly as their species had done for centuries of warfare. That was when Pete Collins demonstrated why he had requested permission to bring a barbecue smoker to a military exercise. The device was not just for cooking food. It was also a very effective smokescreen generator, and Pete had loaded it with a mixture that produced thick, white smoke that confused both visual and electronic sensors. Within seconds, the entire landing zone was filled with smoke that smelled like barbecued meat and completely disrupted the Krell coordination. Individual units could not see their neighbors. Their electronic communication was jammed by the chemical composition of the smoke, and their hive-mind connection was broken by the confusion. "And the humans have deployed what appears to be smoke screen," Lisa announced from orbit. "But folks, I have to tell you, this is the best-smelling smoke screen I've ever encountered. It's like someone combined military tactics with a backyard barbecue. And honestly, I think it's kind of brilliant." The Zarathi forces tried to advance through the smoke, but their precise formations became meaningless when they could not see where they were going. The Vex warriors attempted to use their internal light to navigate, but the smoke was specifically designed to scatter energy wavelengths, and their glow only made them easier targets. The final scenario was set to begin in 12 hours, and every alien delegation on Nexus Prime was preparing for what they considered the most important military exercise in 3 centuries. The humans had won 3 scenarios in a row using methods that challenged everything the galaxy thought it knew about warfare. Now the aliens were determined to prove that proper military science would ultimately triumph over human chaos. Jake Morrison stood in the cargo bay of the UES Liberty, watching Pete Collins inventory their equipment for the final battle. The collection had grown considerably over the past week. Along with the original flamethrowers, they now had industrial-grade barbecue smokers, enough portable speakers to supply a concert, several dozen mirrors of various sizes, and what appeared to be the components for a small festival. Pete, Jake, said, "Exactly how much cooking equipment did you request for this scenario?" "Enough to feed everyone on the station," Pete replied cheerfully, patting a device that looked like a cross between a military smoker and a small factory. "I figured if we're going to do this, we might as well do it right. This baby can produce enough barbecue smoke to cover a small city, and it actually cooks food at the same time." Amy Rodriguez was studying the scenario briefing materials, which were more complex than anything they had faced before. "This final exercise combines everything from the previous scenarios," she said. "Space combat, fortress defense, and planetary assault, all happening simultaneously over 3 days. We'll need to coordinate multiple teams across different environments." "How many teams are we facing?" Jake asked. "All of them," Amy said. "Every alien species that participated in the previous scenarios, plus some new ones that arrived specifically for the finale. The Zorathi brought their best military academy graduates. The Vex have deployed their most advanced computational systems. The Krell sent their elite hive mind units. There are also teams from the Hegemony, the Crystal Alliance, and the Void Dwellers." Lisa Grant looked up from her communication station, where she had been monitoring alien transmissions. "Captain, they're taking this very seriously. I'm picking up communications from military academies across the galaxy. They're treating this like a test case for whether traditional military thinking can defeat human unpredictability." "No pressure," Jake said with a smile. The scenario would take place in a complete star system with multiple planets, asteroid fields, and space stations. Each team would start with limited resources and would need to capture facilities to gain access to better equipment and reinforcements. The winning condition was simple: control the most strategic positions when the exercise ended after 72 hours. "So what's our strategy?" Amy asked. Jake looked around at his team. Over the past week, they had learned something important about themselves and about their opponents. The aliens were brilliant, disciplined, and technologically advanced. But they were also predictable in their unpredictability. When faced with something they did not understand, they tried to analyze it using the same methods that had worked for centuries. "Our strategy is the same as always," Jake said. "We be ourselves. We have fun. We help our friends. And we make." "Sure, Pete gets to use his flamethrowers." "That's not really a strategy," Amy pointed out. "Sure it is," Jake said. "It's just not the kind of strategy they're expecting." The final scenario began with all teams deployed to different starting positions throughout the star system. The aliens immediately began executing complex coordination plans, sharing intelligence and dividing up objectives according to predetermined agreements. Within the first hour, they had established communication networks, formed tactical alliances, and begun systematic capture of strategic facilities. The humans, meanwhile, had found a small space station near the edge of the system and were apparently having a party. "This is Lisa Grant broadcasting from Station 7, bringing you live coverage of the final War Games scenario," Lisa announced over the open communication channels. "Day 1 is off to a fantastic start, folks. The alien teams are showing incredible coordination and tactical sophistication. The Zorathi have secured the primary shipyard. The Vex have taken control of the central command station, and the Krell are systematically capturing resource facilities." Pete had set up his master barbecue smoker in the station's main hangar, and the smell of cooking food was beginning to spread through the facility's atmospheric systems. "And here at Station 7, Lisa continued, Sergeant Collins is preparing. what appears to be the largest barbecue in galactic history. I can smell it from the command deck, and folks, it smells incredible. The alien commanders were monitoring Lisa's broadcasts, trying to determine if the human activities were part of some elaborate deception. After 3 victories, they no longer dismissed human behavior as random or meaningless. Every action had to be analyzed for potential tactical significance. "Admiral," came the voice of a Zorathi tactical officer over their command frequency, "the humans have been at Station 7 for 6 hours. Our intelligence suggests they are not pursuing any strategic objectives." Admiral Vexver's scales shifted to thoughtful colors. They won 3 scenarios using apparent randomness that was actually sophisticated psychological warfare. "We cannot assume their current behavior is meaningless." In the Vex command ship, clarity of purpose was running computational analyses of human activities. The calculations kept producing results that made no logical sense, which, based on previous experience, probably meant the humans were planning something significant. The Krell hive mind units were having similar difficulties. Their collective intelligence could predict and counter almost any military strategy, but human behavior patterns did not fit into their analytical frameworks. Day 2 of the final scenario, Lisa broadcast as the exercise continued. "The Alien Alliance controls most of the strategic facilities in the system, and they're demonstrating exactly why they've been the dominant military powers in the galaxy for centuries. Their coordination is flawless, their tactics are brilliant, and their execution is perfect." Jake and his team were still at Station 7, which was beginning to look more like a festival venue than a military installation. Pete's barbecue operation had expanded to include multiple cooking stations. Amy had set up what appeared to be a small concert stage, and Lisa was broadcasting from a communications center that looked like a radio studio. "Meanwhile," Lisa continued, "the human team continues to operate Station 7 as what can only be described as a combination military base and entertainment complex. Sergeant Collins has announced that dinner will be served at 1800 hours, and everyone is invited." The invitation was broadcast on all frequencies, reaching every team in the star system. The alien commanders spent hours analyzing the tactical implications of a dinner invitation during a military exercise. "It could be a trap," suggested a Vex tactical specialist. "Or a psychological warfare technique," added a Zorathi strategist. "Or they might actually want to serve us dinner," said a Krell unit, which caused the other aliens to question whether the hive mind was malfunctioning. On day 3, with only 12 hours remaining in the scenario, the humans finally made their move. But instead of attacking strategic facilities or attempting to capture key positions, they began broadcasting something that confused everyone. "Attention all teams," came Jake Morrison's voice over the communication channels. "This is Captain Morrison with an important announcement. Station 7 is now hosting the first annual Galactic Military Appreciation Festival. All participants are invited to attend a celebration of the finest military minds in the galaxy." The alien teams stopped their operations to analyze this new development. A military appreciation festival in the middle of a competitive exercise made no tactical sense according to any theory they knew. "We have prepared presentations about each participating species," Jake continued. "The Zorathi Tactical Excellence display will begin at 1400 hours. The Vex Computational Warfare demonstration starts at 1500 hours. The Krell Coordination Showcase is scheduled for 1600 hours. Food will be provided by Sergeant Collins, and live commentary will be provided by Communications Officer Grant." Over the next 6 hours, something unprecedented happened in the history of the war games. Teams began arriving at Station 7, not to capture it, but to attend what appeared to be a genuine celebration of military achievements. The humans had prepared detailed presentations about each alien species' tactical innovations, highlighting their strengths and acknowledging their contributions to galactic Military Science. Pete Collins served barbecued food from dozens of different worlds, having somehow acquired recipes for alien cuisine and adapted them for his cooking equipment. Amy Rodriguez had organized demonstrations of various military techniques, with alien experts showing off their specialized skills. Lisa Grant provided commentary that made every species feel appreciated and respected. This is incredible, Lisa. Broadcast as representatives from every team gathered in the station's main hangar. We have the finest military minds in the galaxy, sharing knowledge, techniques, and stories. The Zorathi are demonstrating precision formation flying. The Vex are explaining their computational warfare algorithms.